The bright red live indicator blinked in the corner of the screen as millions of Americans tuned in to the Real America Show, one of the most watched political talk shows on television. Hosted by the famously opinionated liberal commentator, Chad Wilmore, the show prided itself on hard-hitting discussions, controversial guests, and enough verbal fireworks to make social media explode. Tonight, the show had something special lined up, an unexpected guest who was bound to shake things up. The one and only Samuel L. Jackson had agreed to a live debate. The topic? Hollywood, wokeness, and the future of America. Producers had expected Jackson to be another Hollywood celebrity pushing progressive ideals. What they didn't realize was that the legendary actor had a habit of speaking his mind. Unfiltered, unscripted, and utterly hilarious. As the countdown timer hit 0, the dramatic intro music played, and Chad Wilmore, dressed in his signature navy blue suit, flashed his trademark smirk at the camera. Good evening, America. Tonight we have a very special guest, a Hollywood icon, a legend, and a man with opinions just as famous as his movies. Please welcome the one and only Samuel L. Jackson. The audience, both in the studio and at home, held their breath. Would this be a cordial discussion? Or would it turn into a brutal, viral moment? Jackson walked onto the set with the swagger of a man who had seen it all and wasn't about to take nonsense from anyone. Dressed casually in a dark hoodie and jeans, he adjusted his glasses and took his seat across from Wilmore. The tension was already thick. So, Mr. Jackson, Wilmore began, leaning forward with a practiced expression of intellectual curiosity. You've had an incredible career in Hollywood, spanning decades. But in recent years, many celebrities, yourself included, have been outspoken about politics. Some say Hollywood has become too political, too, dare I say, woke. Jackson smirked. Oh, you dare say it? Man, please. You act like saying woke gonna make you burst into flames. The audience chuckled. Wilmore forced a polite laugh but quickly regained composure. Well, Wilmore continued, many Americans feel that Hollywood's constant messaging alienates them. They just want to watch movies without being lectured about social justice, race, gender, and all these issues. Jackson leaned back, eyeing Wilmore like a cat sizing up a very slow mouse. Oh, so let me get this straight, Chad. People love movies where I kill 20 bad guys, drop 30 F-bombs, and ride a dinosaur, but the second I say something about real life, suddenly I'm preaching? Wilmore shifted in his chair. I wouldn't put it that way. Nah, let's put it that way, Jackson interrupted, pointing a finger. Y'all got zero problem with politics in movies when it's Captain America fighting Nazis, or some cowboy shooting up the bad guys. But when a black man says, hey, maybe cops shouldn't be beating the hell out of folks for fun, suddenly that's too much for y'all to handle. The studio audience erupted in laughter and applause. Wilmore's face tensed slightly. He wasn't used to being the one on defense. I think the issue, Mr. Jackson, is that people don't want Hollywood pushing an agenda. They want to be entertained. Oh, you mean like when John Wayne spent decades making movies about how cowboys were the heroes and Native Americans were savages? That kinda no-agenda entertainment? Jackson asked, raising an eyebrow. The audience laughed again. Wilmore's smile was starting to look a little strained. Well, Wilmore said, clearing his throat. There are those who say the current climate is more divisive than ever, with Hollywood promoting certain ideologies that may not reflect the values of everyday Americans. Jackson took off his glasses and rubbed his temples dramatically. Then he looked Wilmore straight in the eyes and said, Chad, let me ask you something. When was America not divisive? The silence in the studio was deafening. Jackson leaned forward. We had slavery, Jim Crow, segregation, civil rights protests, riots, wars, economic collapses, and Donald Trump. And now y'all want to act like wokeness is what's tearing the country apart. The camera zoomed in on Wilmore, whose mouth opened but no words came out. Jackson shook his head. Man, miss me with that bulls. Cut to commercial break. And just like that, Samuel L. Jackson had turned a simple live debate into must-watch television. Nah, let's put it that way, Jackson interrupted, pointing a finger. Y'all got zero problem with politics in movies when it's Captain America fighting Nazis or some cowboy shooting up the bad guys. But when a black man says, hey, maybe cops shouldn't be beating the hell out of folks for fun, suddenly that's too much for y'all to handle. The studio audience erupted in laughter and applause. Wilmore's face tensed slightly. He wasn't used to being the one on defense. I think the issue, Mr. Jackson, is that people don't want Hollywood pushing an agenda. They want to be entertained. Oh, you mean like when John Wayne spent decades making movies about how cowboys were the heroes and Native Americans were savages? That kinda no-agenda entertainment? Jackson asked, raising an eyebrow. The audience laughed again. Wilmore's smile was starting to look a little strained. Well, Wilmore said, clearing his throat, there are those who say the current climate is more divisive than ever, with Hollywood promoting certain ideologies that may not reflect the values of everyday Americans. Jackson took off his glasses and rubbed his temples dramatically. Then he looked Wilmore straight in the eyes and said, Chad, let me ask you something. When was America not divisive? The silence in the studio was deafening. Jackson leaned forward. We had slavery, Jim Crow, segregation, civil rights protests, riots, wars, economic collapses, and Donald Trump. And now y'all want to act like wokeness is what's tearing the country apart. The camera zoomed in on Wilmore, whose mouth opened but no words came out. Jackson shook his head. Man, miss me with that bulls. Cut to commercial break. And just like that, Samuel L. Jackson had turned a simple live debate into must-watch television. Nah, don't weasel out of this. Answer the damn question. Do you, a rich white dude with a primetime TV show, feel oppressed? Wilmore swallowed hard. No. Jackson sat back, nodding. That's what I thought. Another round of applause swept through the studio. Wilmore exhaled, clearly struggling to maintain control of the segment. But he wasn't giving up yet. Well, Mr. Jackson, let's talk about something else. You recently spoke out against cancel culture. You said, and I quote, people need to stop being soft as hell. Do you think cancel culture is a real problem? Or is it just accountability? Jackson smiled. Oh, now that's a damn good question. The audience leaned in. Jackson adjusted his hoodie, cracked his knuckles, and said, see, cancel culture is some weird sh*t, 'cause it only seems to work on the wrong people. Wilmore raised an eyebrow. What do you mean? Jackson gestured with his hands. I mean, y'all out here canceling comedians for bad jokes. But politicians out here doing crimes on live TV and still getting reelected. The audience lost it. Even Wilmore had to chuckle. But do you think people should be allowed to say anything without consequences? Wilmore pressed. Hell no, Jackson shot back. But there's a difference between calling somebody out and trying to destroy their whole life over some dumb sh*t they said in 1997. Wilmore nodded. So you're saying, I'm saying, maybe instead of canceling comedians for making bad jokes, we cancel some of these politicians who keep screwing the country over. More applause. Wilmore sighed, realizing that no matter how hard he tried, Samuel L. Jackson wasn't just winning the debate, he was owning it. And the night wasn't over yet. Chad Wilmore shifted uncomfortably in his chair. He had interviewed celebrities before, some combative, some evasive, but no one had ever dominated the conversation like Samuel L. Jackson was doing tonight, but he wasn't about to roll over just yet. Well, Mr. Jackson, Wilmore said, adjusting his tie. You say cancel culture targets the wrong people, but don't you think Hollywood celebrities, yourself included, get a pass? The average American can lose their job for a tweet, but someone like you can say whatever you want and still star in blockbuster movies. Jackson let out a short, amused laugh. Oh, that's rich coming from you. Wilmore frowned. What do you mean by that? Jackson leaned forward, resting his elbows on the table. Chad, y'all in the media got selective outrage. You'll drag some random dude working at Target for an old Facebook post, but let some politician or billionaire get caught doing straight-up crimes, and suddenly, it's all let's wait for the full investigation. The audience erupted in laughter and applause. Jackson smirked. Man, if I get caught jaywalking, TMZ gonna have drones following me. But if some rich Wall Street dude scams folks out of millions, he gets a Netflix documentary and a book deal. Even Mitch Hanley, the conservative co-host, shook his head with a chuckle. Wilmore exhaled. Okay, but let's talk about Hollywood hypocrisy. You've spoken out against billionaires, but you work for Disney, one of the biggest corporations in the world. Isn't that a contradiction? Jackson raised an eyebrow. Oh, so now we talking about contradictions? He turned to the audience. Y'all notice how people only bring up hypocrisy when they lose in an argument? Laughter filled the studio again. Look, Chad, Jackson continued, I ain't saying I'm some perfect saint. I work in Hollywood, yeah, but at least I don't go around pretending the system ain't rigged. Y'all act like just 'cause I got money, I can't say nothing about inequality. Wilmore nodded slowly. So you think wealth shouldn't disqualify someone from speaking on social issues? Jackson scoffed. If being rich disqualified people from having opinions, half of Congress would be mute. The audience lost it. Wilmore was visibly struggling now. He had prepared for a tough debate, but he hadn't expected to be outmatched this badly. Still, he had one more angle to try. All right, Mr. Jackson, he said, regaining his composure. Since we're talking about hypocrisy, let's discuss the criticism that actors and musicians who support progressive causes are often the same people who make violent movies and music. How do you justify speaking against real-world violence when your career has profited from portraying it on screen? Jackson tilted his head and gave Wilmore a look that could only be described as pure disbelief. Chad, you seriously skin me that? Wilmore crossed his arms. Yes, I am. Jackson sighed, rubbing his temples. Then, in his signature booming voice, he said, Movies. Real. The audience burst out laughing, and even Wilmore's smirk faltered. Jackson continued, his voice dripping with sarcasm. Oh no, everybody watch out. I played a hitman in Pulp Fiction. That must mean I'm gonna start catpin folks in real life. Somebody call the cops. Samuel L. Jackson might be dangerous. The laughter grew louder, and even Wilmore had to chuckle. Jackson leaned in. Man, y'all love fake violence. Every damn movie you'll watch got somebody getting shot, blown up, or punched into next week. But when I say, hey, maybe we should talk about gun control in real life, suddenly I'm a hypocrite. Wilmore hesitated. But don't you think? No, Chad. I don't think that, Jackson interrupted. By your logic, if an actor plays a doctor on TV, that means they should be out here performing real surgeries. Mitch Hanley couldn't hold back his laughter this time. Damn, Chad, he muttered, shaking his head. Wilmore took a deep breath. He was running out of angles. Jackson wasn't just winning the debate, he was annihilating it. And the night was far from over. Chad Wilmore could feel the energy in the room shifting further out of his control. The audience was eating up every line from Samuel L. Jackson, and his co-host Mitch Hanley, who was supposed to be the conservative counterbalance, was enjoying the roast more than he should have been. Wilmore cleared his throat and tried to regain some footing. Well, Mr. Jackson, he said, since you brought up gun control, let's get serious for a moment. You've been vocal about stricter gun laws, yet you've played characters who use guns in nearly all of your films. Do you think that might make you seem disingenuous to people who support the Second Amendment? Jackson gave a long, exaggerated sigh. He took off his glasses, rubbed his eyes, and put them back on. Then he stared at Wilmore like he was trying to process the stupidity of the question. Chad, pause. You do realize movies ain't real, right? The audience chuckled, but Jackson wasn't done. You think when I play a Jedi, I'm really out here using the Force? You think I got a purple lightsaber chillin' in my closet at home? The laughter grew. Listen, man, Jackson continued. Me using a gun in a movie is called acting, but you got real-life politicians out here acting like they in Call of Duty with Christmas cards of their whole damn family holding AR-15s. The audience exploded. Mitch Hanley coughed into his fist, trying and failing to hide his grin. Wilmore shifted in his seat. Okay, but let's be real here. Gun violence in movies can influence impressionable people. Jackson pointed at him. See, that's the problem right there. Y'all always looking for somebody else to blame. It's not the movies, Chad. It's not rap music. It's not video games. You know what is the problem? He gestured dramatically. Maybe, just maybe, it's the fact that you can buy a gun in this country easier than you can buy Sudafed. Another eruption from the audience. Wilmore blinked. Well, Jackson cut him off. Dude, you can't even get some allergy medicine without signing a form and showing ID. But you can get a damn AR-15 from a dude in a parking lot with no questions asked. Wilmore sighed. That's not entirely accurate. Jackson leaned back, smirking. Oh? Tell me, Chad, when's the last time you tried to buy a gun? Wilmore hesitated. Well, Jackson grinned wider. Exactly. The audience lost it again. Wilmore exhaled sharply. He could feel his control of the conversation slipping further away. Okay, Mr. Jackson, he said, shifting topics. Let's talk about something else. You've been very outspoken about racial issues in America. Some people say that constantly bringing up race only divides us further. What's your response to that? Jackson sat forward, his face dead serious now. Oh, so talking about racism is what's divisive? Not the actual racism itself. Wilmore swallowed. I'm just saying. Nah, let's break this down, Jackson interrupted. You ever notice how the same folks who say, stop talking about racism, it just makes things worse, are the exact same ones who throw a damn fit when a Starbucks cup don't have Christmas decorations? Mitch Hanley straight up slapped his knee at that one. The audience was howling. Jackson shook his head. Man, y'all act like black folks woke up one day and just invented racism for fun. Like, hey, you know what'd be a great hobby? Talking about oppression for 400 years. Wilmore took a deep breath, trying to stay calm. But don't you think? Jackson put up a hand. Let me stop you right there. You ever had a random white lady clutch her purse when you walked past her? Wilmore blinked. No, I can't say I have. Jackson nodded. Exactly. So maybe sit this one out, my guy. The audience erupted once more. Wilmore was done. He had walked into this debate thinking he'd challenge a Hollywood liberal on live TV, maybe get some viral moments for his audience. Instead, he was getting publicly obliterated. And Jackson was just getting started. Chad Wilmore could feel the sweat forming under his collar. The debate had veered completely out of his control. His producers were probably panicking in the control room, but he couldn't back out now, not without looking like a total coward. He straightened his posture, trying to salvage the conversation. All right, Mr. Jackson, he said, forcing a smile. You've had your fun, but let's talk about something more substantial. You and many in Hollywood constantly criticize America. Yet, this country has given you fame, fortune, and an incredible career. Don't you think it's hypocritical to bash the same system that made you successful? Jackson squinted at Wilmore as if he had just said the dumbest thing on earth. Oh, so that's how it works, huh? Jackson said, tilting his head. If you get money, you ain't allowed to call out the problems in the system no more? Wilmore nodded confidently. Exactly. Jackson chuckled, shaking his head. So let me get this straight, he said. If a man works his way up from nothing, sees some bulls *****, and decides to say something about it, he's ungrateful? Wilmore shrugged. Well, it does seem. Nah, don't do that, Jackson cut in. You know who else made a bunch of money but stayed talking about inequality? Wilmore exhaled. Who? Jackson leaned forward. Jesus. The audience went ballistic. Mitch Hanley literally covered his mouth to keep from spitting out his water. Jackson spread his hands. What? I'm lying? My dude was out there flipping tables and temples, talking about greed, telling folks to help the poor. But I guess if he was around today, yo would be like, damn, Jesus, you sure got a lot to say for a guy with 12 full-time employees. Even Wilmore had to chuckle at that one. Jackson wasn't done. Man, that whole argument is dumb as hell. You should want to fix the system even if you made it out. You think firefighters should only care about fires in their houses? You think doctors should only treat diseases they personally had? Wilmore sighed, rubbing his temples. He was running out of plays. Jackson smirked. And by the way, Chad, you work in the media. The same media y'all always say is fake news and the enemy of the people. But you sure as hell cashin' that paycheck, ain't ya? The audience lost it again. Wilmore's face twitched. He had walked straight into that one. Mitch Hanley let out a low whistle. Man, Chad, you might need to call in sick tomorrow. Wilmore forced another tight smile, trying to stay composed. All right, let's move on. Jackson smirked. Yeah, let's. Wilmore glanced at his notes, scrambling for something. Anything that might get him back on track. He looked up, forcing another professional grin. Mr. Jackson, let's talk about free speech, he said. Do you think it's fair that some people get canceled for expressing their opinions while others get a pass? Jackson nodded. Damn right it ain't fair. Wilmore perked up. Finally, some common ground. But Jackson wasn't finished. Y'all only care about cancel culture when it's someone you like, he said. If a rapper gets dropped from a label for saying something dumb, it's consequences. But if some billionaire gets called out for dropping racist tweets, suddenly it's free speech is under attack. Wilmore shook his head. But don't you think we should be able to have open debates without fear of being silenced? Jackson shrugged. Sure. But maybe don't say dumbass ****, and people won't cancel ya. The audience roared again. Wilmore exhaled sharply, struggling to hold onto the conversation. Okay, so where do we draw the line? He asked. What's the difference between holding someone accountable and just silencing voices we don't like? Jackson rubbed his chin, then pointed at Wilmore. Let me ask you something, Chad. Wilmore hesitated. Go ahead. Jackson leaned in. If cancel culture is so damn real, why y'all still got a statue of Columbus up? Wilmore froze. The audience screamed in laughter. Mitch Hanley leaned back, wiping tears from his eyes. Oh my God. Jackson smirked. Yeah, thought so. Wilmore swallowed, completely out of counterarguments. Jackson folded his arms, watching him flounder. Let me know when you're ready for me to keep going up. The studio had become Samuel L. Jackson's stage, and Chad Wilmore was barely holding on. Chad Wilmore felt like he was in quicksand. The harder he tried to regain control, the deeper he sank. The audience wasn't just laughing at Samuel L. Jackson's roasting, they were cheering for it. Even Mitch Hanley, his so-called co-host, had all but abandoned ship, reduced to wiping away tears of laughter. But Wilmore wasn't ready to give up. He glanced at his notes again, looking for something that might throw Jackson off balance. Then an idea struck him. He adjusted his tie and leaned forward with a calculated smirk. Mr. Jackson, he said, for all your passionate takes, there's one thing I've noticed. You never criticize Hollywood itself. You go after politicians, media figures, and random Twitter users, but what about your own industry? Hollywood preaches morality while being full of scandal, elitism, and hypocrisy. Don't you think that makes you part of the problem? For the first time, Jackson didn't fire back immediately. He simply nodded as if considering the point. Wilmore felt a flicker of hope. Finally, I got him. But then, Jackson exhaled and cracked his knuckles. Oh, you want to talk about Hollywood now? He said, his voice laced with amusement. Let's do this. Wilmore tensed. See, Chad, you think you caught me slippin'? But let me tell you something. I've been calling out Hollywood's bulls ***** 4 decades. The audience hooped. Jackson continued, his voice like a preacher delivering a sermon. You want to talk about hypocrisy? Let me break it down for you. Hollywood will make a whole damn movie about slavery, fill it with A-list stars, and then somehow, when award season comes around, it's the white director that gets all the credit. Mitch Hanley groaned, shaking his head in agreement. Jackson kept going. Hollywood will tell you they care about diversity, but half the time, they think inclusion just means putting the rock in everything. The audience exploded again. Wilmore, desperate, cut in. But you're still part of the system. You still take the roles, you still work with the studios. Jackson raised a hand. Damn right I do. But let me tell you something, Chad. You can work inside the system and still call out its bulls *****. Or what, you think Harriet Tubman should have just quit and got a new job? The audience lost it. Wilmore sighed heavily, rubbing his temples. He had never had a guest hijack his own show like this before. Jackson leaned back in his chair, completely relaxed. Hollywood's got problems, no doubt. But you know who really don't want to fix nothing? The people who pretend they ain't part of no system at all. Wilmore raised an eyebrow. What do you mean by that? Jackson smirked. I mean people like you, Chad. The audience went dead silent. Wilmore's throat went dry. Excuse me? Jackson leaned forward. His eyes locked onto Wilmore's. Man, you sitting up here acting like you some outsider, like you just a regular guy calling out the elites. But you on national television. You are the media. You get paid by the same advertisers, backed by the same networks, living in the same circles. So how you gonna sit here and act like I'm the problem? Wilmore's lips parted, but no words came out. Jackson shook his head. Man, at least I own my S*******. You want to talk about hypocrisy? Look in the damn mirror. The audience went wild. Mitch Hanley whistled. Phew. Somebody check Chad's pulse. Wilmore clenched his jaw. He was out of moves. Samuel L. Jackson had taken over his own show, and there was still more to come. Back in the control room, the producers were in full-blown panic mode. The live chat was exploding. Social media was on fire. Every second that Samuel L. Jackson stayed on air, the show's ratings skyrocketed. But so did Chad Wilmore's humiliation. Wilmore could feel the blood draining from his face. He had lost control, and worse, Jackson was now exposing him in front of a national audience. This was supposed to be a debate, not a public execution. Wilmore clenched his fists under the table and forced a grin. All right, Mr. Jackson, you've had your fun. But let's get back to the issues. Since you love holding people accountable, tell me this. Why does Hollywood push so much woke nonsense these days? Jackson blinked. Woke nonsense? Wilmore nodded. Yeah, every movie, every TV show. People are sick of it. Hollywood forces diversity, rewrites history, and shoves identity politics down everyone's throats. Can't we just enjoy entertainment without being lectured? Jackson smirked and leaned forward. Ah, so that's what this is about. You mad? 'Cause your favorite superheroes ain't all white no more. The audience erupted again. Wilmore chuckled dryly, trying to play it off. Come on, that's not what I said. Jackson raised an eyebrow. Ain't it? Wilmore shifted in his seat. I'm just saying, why mess with classic characters? Why force a message in everything? People go to movies to escape, not to be preached at. Jackson nodded slowly. Aight, Chad. Let me tell you a little story. Wilmore tensed. Oh God, here we go again. Jackson continued. You ever heard of a movie called Guess Who's Coming to Dinner? Wilmore frowned. Yeah. Sidney Poitier, right? Jackson snapped his fingers. Damn right. Classic film. You know what it was about? Wilmore hesitated. Interracial marriage? Jackson clapped his hands. Bingo! And when that movie dropped in 1967, you know what folks said? Wilmore shrugged. They said the exact same **** you just said ***. Why they gotta force this message? Why can't we just enjoy entertainment? Wilmore opened his mouth, but Jackson kept going. Man, people called it woke nonsense before woke was even a damn word. And you know what happened? Wilmore shook his head. It became a classic. Changed people's minds. And now, ain't nobody out here crying about interracial marriage in movies. The audience applauded. Jackson sat back, shaking his head. The only reason y'all mad at woke Hollywood is 'cause you don't like seeing change in real time. But 20 years from now, the same movies y'all crying about today gon' be called classics. And you know what? You gon' pretend you was cool with them the whole time. Wilmore's mouth twitched. He wasn't sure if it was from frustration or fear. He had to regain control. He forced a smirk. That's a nice speech, Mr. Jackson. But let me ask you, if Hollywood's so progressive, why is it full of scandals? Why do all these woke celebrities get exposed for doing horrible things? Jackson let out a deep sigh. Man, you really reachin' now. Wilmore crossed his arms. Am I? Look at Harvey Weinstein. Look at all the Me Too cases. You call out hypocrisy. But Hollywood's full of predators pretending to be moral leaders. Jackson's expression darkened. The audience quieted. For the first time, there was no smirk, no joke. Jackson spoke, his voice lower and more serious. Oh, you want to talk about Weinstein? Good. Let me tell you something. The room went dead silent. Wilmore swallowed. Jackson stared at him. You know who finally took that ***** down? Wilmore hesitated. Jackson pointed at the camera. The same woke movement you just called nonsense. Wilmore blinked. Jackson shook his head. Hollywood ain't perfect. Never said it was. But you want to know why all these scandals are coming out now? 'Cause people finally got the power to call them out. The audience erupted in cheers. Jackson continued. Ain't nobody in Hollywood proud of that bull's ******. But the difference between us and folks like you is that we actually trying to clean our house. Y'all just want to pretend the dirt don't exist. Wilmore's face went pale. Jackson exhaled, shaking his head. Man, if y'all spent half as much energy calling out the actual problems in politics as you do crying about woke Hollywood, maybe this country wouldn't be such a damn mess. Mitch Hanley whistled. Phew, I don't think Chad gonna recover from this one. Wilmore clenched his jaw. He had been wrecked over and over again on his own show. But he wasn't done yet. His career depended on winning something tonight. He had one more shot left. And it was a big one. Chad Wilmore was desperate. His reputation, his credibility, his entire career was getting torched by Samuel L. Jackson on live television. His producers were freaking out in his earpiece. The live chat was brutal. Even his own co-host, Mitch Hanley, had pretty much checked out and was just enjoying the show like everyone else. Wilmore took a deep breath. He had one last card to play. Something that had to work. Something that would flip the script. He leaned forward, locked eyes with Jackson and smiled. A smile so smug it could have been bottled and sold as cologne for Wall Street executives. Mr. Jackson, he said smoothly. Let's talk about your hypocrisy. Jackson arched an eyebrow. Oh, this should be good. Wilmore continued. You act like you're the voice of the people. Like you're some champion of the little guy. But let's be real, you are part of the Hollywood elite. You live in a multi-million-dollar mansion, fly in private jets, and rub elbows with the same politicians you claim to call out. Jackson nodded slowly, as if considering the point. Wilmore smirked. Got him. But then, Jackson leaned back, crossed his arms, and grinned. Ah man, you'll really love this Hollywood elite argument, huh? Wilmore frowned. It's a fair point. Jackson shook his head. Nah, it's a lazy-ass point. The audience laughed. Jackson leaned forward. Let me tell you something, Chad. You ever heard of a dude named LeBron James? Wilmore blinked. Yeah. Jackson spread his arms. Rich as hell, right? Private jets, mansions, sponsorships. Dude got more money than the GDP of some small countries. Wilmore nodded hesitantly. Jackson smirked. And yet, when he builds a school for underprivileged kids, nobody says, why is a rich guy helping poor people? Wilmore opened his mouth, but Jackson wasn't done. When Oprah gives out scholarships, ain't nobody going, wait. How can she help people? She rich. Wilmore's jaw tightened. Jackson shook his head. But the second I call out some bulls *****, suddenly it's, oh no, a rich man has an opinion. Guess he ain't allowed to care about regular folks. The audience cheered. Jackson kept going. Y'all only pull this Hollywood elite card when a celebrity says something y'all don't like. If I was sitting here saying exactly what you wanted to hear, you'd be praising me right now. Wilmore had nothing. Jackson leaned in, staring Wilmore down. And you know what the funniest part is? Wilmore hesitated. What? Jackson pointed at him. You rich as hell too. Wilmore's face froze. Jackson grinned. Oh, what? You thought we ain't know? You think the folks at home don't see it? You sittin' in $1 million studio, getting paid 6 figures to ask me dumbass questions? And you want to talk about my wealth? The audience lost their minds. Even Mitch Hanley was dying laughing. Jackson spread his arms. Man, if being rich means I can't speak on real issues, then you need to shut the hell up too. The audience erupted in applause. Wilmore's face turned red. He had lost control. Completely. But then, just as he was about to crack, his producer's voice came through his earpiece. Cut to commercial. Cut to commercial. Now, the screen faded to black. The last thing America saw was Samuel L. Jackson, shaking his head with a smirk, as if he had just won the damn Super Bowl. He was this close to snapping. But he had to end this segment before Jackson said something else that would permanently end his career. All right, Mr. Jackson, he said through gritted teeth. We appreciate you coming on the show. Final thoughts. Jackson leaned forward. Yeah. Next time. Do your homework before you invite a motherf ***** like me on live TV. The audience lost their minds. Even Mitch Hanley had to walk off set because he was laughing so damn hard. The camera zoomed in on Wilmore's face. Frozen, humiliated, and out of words. The moment that broke the internet. The moment the show ended, news outlets picked up the segment instantly. Samuel L. Jackson eviscerates TV host in viral debate. Chad Wilmore's worst night on live television. Did we just witness a career-ending moment for Wilmore? Late-night hosts had a field day with the clips. Stephen Colbert. I think Chad just got hit with Samuel L. Jackson's 100th acting credit, and it was called Getting My Ass Roasted on National TV. Jimmy Kimmel. The funniest part? Wilmore tried to make a comeback but forgot who he was talking to. This man survived Tarantino scripts. You think your little talking points are gonna shake him? And then, Samuel L. Jackson himself tweeted. At Samuel L. Jackson, hope Chad doing okay. Y'all check on him. He looked like he needed a hug. Rolling on the floor laughing #motherf ***** moment. That tweet got 5 million likes in 2 hours. Wilmore's career crisis. By the next morning, Wilmore was trending for all the wrong reasons. His inbox was flooded. Some people offering support, others telling him to never show his face again. The network's higher-ups weren't happy. Chad, we need to talk. One executive told him in a tense phone call. This is bad. Like really bad. Our credibility is in the toilet right now. Wilmore sighed, rubbing his temples. What do you want me to do? The executive hesitated. You need to apologize. Wilmore's eyes widened. Apologize? For what? For looking like a damn fool on national TV. Wilmore was speechless. Meanwhile, Samuel L. Jackson? He was chilling at home, enjoying a glass of whiskey, watching the reruns of his own legendary TV moment. His phone buzzed. A text from his friend, Denzel Washington. Denzel, damn, Sam. You didn't just roast him. You burned the whole damn building down. Jackson chuckled, took another sip of his whiskey, and typed back. Motherf ***** had it coming. The sun rose on the day after the debate. But Chad Wilmore's nightmare was just getting started. His name was everywhere, just not in the way he wanted. Morning news programs replayed clips of the debate with analysts discussing his utter collapse. Conservative and liberal commentators alike roasted him. Even his usual allies on the left were saying things like, look, I like Chad Wilmore, but he got cooked last night. I mean, Samuel L. Jackson didn't even need to bring a grill. Chad just set himself on fire. Memes flooded the internet. A picture of Wilmore staring blankly at the camera, captioned, when you realize inviting Samuel L. Jackson was the worst decision of your career. A side-by-side comparison. One of Wilmore before the debate looking confident, and one after looking shell-shocked with the caption, the moment you knew UF *********. A video edit of Jackson's best quotes from the debate set to The Undertaker's WWE theme. Wilmore's forced apology. That afternoon, Wilmore's network bosses called him in for an emergency meeting. They didn't sugarcoat it. This is a disaster, the head of programming said, pacing. You've lost credibility. You've lost the audience. You got embarrassed on national television. Wilmore scowled. I was ambushed. He was disrespectful. I should've. Chad. The executive leaned in. Do you realize how bad this is? We're already losing advertisers. Wilmore's stomach dropped. You need to do damage control, the exec continued. That means publicly apologizing and admitting you were out of line. Wilmore's face turned red. Apologize? To him? The guy who humiliated me? The exec crossed his arms. Or, we reconsider your future with this network. Silence. Wilmore's career was on the line. He had no choice. Samuel L. Jackson's victory lap. Meanwhile, Samuel L. Jackson was having the time of his life. He woke up to millions of new followers across all platforms. His name was trending worldwide. Hollywood directors and producers were calling. Even some news outlets that usually ignored him were asking for interviews. Jackson, being Jackson, kept it cool. He tweeted, at Samuel L. Jackson, "Man, last night was fun. Who's next?" Smirking face. The tweet got 10 million likes. Even celebrities joined in. Ryan Reynolds tweeted, I'd pay to watch a whole series where Samuel L. Jackson debates clueless TV hosts. The Rock posted, Chad got hit with the people's roast last night. Someone check on him. Wilmore's public apology goes even worse. That evening, Chad Wilmore sat in his home office, staring at the camera for a pre-recorded message. He hated this, but he had no choice. He sighed. Last night, I got into a heated discussion with Samuel L. Jackson. I regret that I let my emotions get the best of me and failed to conduct myself with professionalism. His fake apology continued for 2 minutes. He never directly admitted he was wrong, just that he could have handled things better. But the internet saw through it instantly. Comments flooded in. This is the most forced apology I've ever seen. Bro, blink twice if they're making you do this. Ain't no way this man thought we'd forget what happened. And then, Samuel L. Jackson responded. He retweeted the video and wrote, at Samuel L. Jackson, nice try, Chad, but you still got roasted. Rolling on the floor laughing fire. That broke the internet again. Wilmore logged off for the night. The legacy of the roast. Over the next few weeks, the legend of Samuel L. Jackson versus Chad Wilmore only grew. The debate became a top-rated YouTube video with millions of views. Late-night hosts kept the jokes coming. Even TV networks started referencing it in promos. Watch our next debate, hopefully. No one gets Samuel L. Jackson. Samuel L. Jackson? He moved on. He went back to doing what he did best, being one of the coolest, most unapologetically real people in Hollywood. And Chad Wilmore? Well, his ratings tanked. His credibility never fully recovered. And every time he tried to act tough in future interviews, people just posted clips from the roast of a lifetime. Final words from Samuel L. Jackson. A few months later, a reporter asked Jackson about the infamous debate. Any final thoughts on Chad Wilmore? Jackson grinned. Yeah. He should have known. You don't step into the ring with a mother f*** ****** unless you're ready to fight.